Week 7 recap. I'm going to act more like I'm on SportsCenter this time, have some fun, try and act professional. So let's start with the biggest blowout we had between the chairman and Pain Train. Pain Train getting a win 167 to 125. For Pain Train, you were able to overcome some very weak performances, and we're mainly looking at guys that we would have expected those weak performances for, in Keenan Allen getting you 2.6 and Michael Gallup getting you 0 points. I am actually more surprised about the Keenan Allen start, which I think was the biggest mistake of the week, just given the fact that it was very clearly articulated by the staff that Keenan Allen would be on a snap count. I think those vicious snap count games are ones you want to avoid. Keenan Allen's had a large history of them going both ways, but I think in this case, it was too risky of a play. But fortunately for Pain Train, you get away with it. You have a massive week at 167. I think the great news for you is Juju is showing some form of consistency in targets and yards after the catch, and that's fantastic. And then Aaron Jones is showing that he is going to be very involved in this offense. It was pretty clear, but even in a loss, he's able to help you through the air and on the ground. I think it's a very exciting week for Pain Train, who I saw a little bit in the comments was acting very confident, and I think rightfully so for this week, but still only at 3-4. Whereas the chairman, a team that we predict will go 500, gets a huge week from Eckler, but really not much else. ETN's the only other good piece of news here, making your RB group, because of that James Robinson trade, a lot stronger. But the rest of the team is just lagging behind, even from guys you'd expect to do incredible, Mark Andrews being banged up and not being able to give you production, only 0.9 points, to guys that are just risky plays in the first place, being Romeo Doubs, Deontay Johnson. I mean, I've been talking about that offense for a while now, just being the wide receivers not being reliable, and I don't expect much out of them this season. Being kind of headlining that. Even on your bench, you'd expect Kareem Hunt to have had a better season. And I hope for you when Devontae Smith comes back next week, he becomes consistent. But another guy that's just one of many. So this is a team with some talent, but going to need that RB group to drive him the rest of the season to get above my prediction of 500. If not, I think it's going to be 500 because of a stellar running back group, wide receiver group, and then quarterback as well in Aaron Rodgers, not performing very well this season. The next biggest blowout was between Team El Captain and Team We Went With Jared. Was it actually El Captain that was acting cocky in the comments? I can't remember. I think maybe both. But El Captain wins 162 to 126. Massive win to go above 500, driven by Patty Mahomes, 41.42 points. That dude is absolutely insane. Stevenson, the good news is with Damian Harris back, continues to be that lead back. The only question you might have is when Damian Harris continues to get healthier and healthier, does this turn back into that committee? My answer is kind of. I do think Stevenson is the better back to own at this point, but Damian Harris is going to be involved. Please don't forget that. As far as Terry McLaurin, you get what you expected. With Heineke back, McLaurin goes back to being the McLaurin we knew. Not necessarily the guy that he should be given his talent, but that wide receiver one on that offense, making big plays for the team, being the go-to on those big plays, and that's good news for you as well, as long as Wentz is going to be out. You get average weeks from Lazard and Cooper. You get a Njoku injury that obviously is not ideal. But the good news for you here is you had Justin Jefferson on bye. You had Devin Singletary on bye. You still have the James Conner issue. And you had Buffalo defense on bye, and you get a big win. Team El Captain really garnering some attention in this league. Going to be a team to watch. Whereas We Went With Jared was 4-2. There was a lot of optimism in his town. A lot of people getting excited. And this is a tough loss against a team that you're going to be competing with for a playoff spot. You're both at 4-3 now. And on your end, at quarterback, there's more questions than you had. I mean, Mahomes now showing he's consistent. Lamar Jackson showing that he's not as consistent, and his floor is very low. You add on to that the fact that Breece Hall is now lost for the season. An absolute stud, a great pick by you. Lost for the season. That's just how fantasy works. A lot of bad luck. You got another bad game from Fournette because that offense is shaky, and now the team is looking a lot shakier than you'd think. Ja'Marr Chase, of course, being a gigantic bright spot for you, and you're going to be getting Darrell Henderson and Cooper Kupp from bye. You have Michael Carter on the bench, but now with that trade of James Robinson, you don't have the value that Breece Hall was. I think maybe if they didn't make a trade, Michael Carter gets close to Breece Hall's value because he's a good running back. I'm a Jets fan. He's a good running back. Not as good, but his usage would be more than even Breece had. You're going to go back to the Michael Carter of old, where he's maybe getting 50%. There's some questions, but that's what you'd anticipate. So you're getting help from the bench. You are taking some downgrades. I think this is at a 4-3 team. It's where I would rank your team now. I think similar to El Captain, but if you're looking at these rosters right now, I think I might have to lean slightly the direction of El Captain until Fournette can show and Lamar Jackson could show some consistency as to where they were drafted. The next biggest blowout, and when I say biggest blowout, there really were not many blowouts in this league, by the way. This is probably the closest matchups out of any league that I'm discussing this week. But the next biggest blowout was 26 points between Untouchables and Glory Hole. Of course, making me look bad in this week's recap. Glory Hole being a team I'm obviously very high on, but another week that just makes you scratch your head. This one, of course, came at Dalvin Cook's bye, but hey, a lot of people have byes, so I can't really make too many excuses. The shame of this is that your next running back up was Rachaad White, a backup running back, only getting you 6 points, and that cost you a lot this week. I mean, the rest of your team, there were disappointments as well, but not so much your fault. I mean, you got DK Metcalf getting injured early on a potential touchdown grab, which absolutely kills. You get not much help from your kicker and defense, despite your defense having a great matchup, and that really is what made the difference of this week. If your team Glory Hole, are you still the favorite? In my eyes, no one's eyes, I don't think. Outside of mine, you're the favorite. And now in my eyes, it's hard for me to argue that you are a favorite. There's been some bad luck up to this point. I still believe in Team Glory Hole. Don't get me wrong. I'm not leaving you. But there's reason to be concerned, and there's reason to even think maybe this isn't even going to be a playoff team. I hope not, because I'm going to look real bad if that's the case. Whereas Untouchables, a team that I was less high on, is showing some value as well. Pollard getting more and more involved. Jonathan Taylor at least coming close to what he should have appeared to be earlier. And somehow Tyler Boyd having a massive week. I don't see Tyler Boyd massive weeks coming often, so I think we need to relax with that. But you know what? That was very necessary for you this week when you had a couple buys of startable guys, Thielen, McKenzie, I guess, and you had your tight end on buy as well. I just think that this team is still at 5-2. I think overrated. I hope that's not bad to say. I'm still gonna stay on my prediction that Untouchables is gonna be not a playoff not a finals contender. I just do not see this team winning at all. We'll see if I'm wrong. 2 matchups left. The first one being, which one was actually more of a blowout? I think it was actually going to be very close. But it was Caesar Trons versus Team Livin' La Vida Yoda. Caesar, tough loss. 144, a pretty solid performance, but Livin' La Vida Yoda just went up to you at 158.6, despite playing a Damian Harris that was just coming back from an injury. Really risky start. But you get help from Eno Benjamin, gigantic week at 24.3. Devontae Adams didn't have to do too much, but still got you 16 points. And then really George Kittle coming back to being tight end 1 at 20.8 points. The massive guy for you is Kenneth Walker, 37.3 points, getting you the win on his own. And I think because of that Kenneth Walker addition, this is a really strong team. I think there's some really sneaky value guys on this team. You add in Gus Edwards, then you add in DeAndre Swift, who's going to be coming back from injury, and you have a real threat with Team Livin' La Vida Yoda that I'll openly admit I was not very, very high on, but the value picks just keep coming. I think Livin' La Vida Yoda was my bottom-ranked team preseason, and I don't know if I regret that. But you look at the pickups that were made. I mean, Eno Benjamin, a great spot start, even though he won't be so much long-term value. Gus Edwards, a fantastic guy. I have him as well. Absolutely fantastically done. And that fills in gaps just on their own that is necessary on this team. So 3-4, I mean, it's a sub-500 team. That's not out of control. I'm not saying my last place ranking was atrocious, but you know, when I rank a team number 1 and rank a team last and now they have the same record, some people are going to scratch their head and be like, who is this Rick guy? And I acknowledge that, but I'm still going to hold that Glory Hole will have a better record. Caesar Trons, the team that fell to 3-4 also. There's a lot of 3-4 teams in this league. Actually got pretty even production across the team. I think the issue here is there just was no explosion of points by anyone. So the question is, do you have explosive players? My answer is always going to be yes. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb at running back, there's explosion right there. The wide receiver group, no. Duvernay, Judy, Higgins, I'm almost impressed. Higgins might have a high upside, but there's just so many guys involved that it's not going to be consistent. But Duvernay and Judy, I mean, you're not going to get explosive weeks. This is basically, that was Judy's ceiling, and Duvernay's doesn't really have a crazy ceiling either. And you saw Zeke's almost ceiling as well, given usage. So just a lot of even production that makes me a little bit nervous about Caesar's team. Always going to be solid, but will it have enough firepower to, of course, make the playoffs, but then run through the playoffs? We're gonna have to keep an eye out to see if that happens. Finally, the final matchup was between Paco Libre and El Grenas. Paco Libre, a team that I've said I'm pretty high on. McCaffrey's trade obviously hurts you in the short term, but you still get 8.7 out of him. Not horrific given a limited package, and you will expect to see a lot more in coming weeks. Josh Jacobs, the real story here, 43 points. Obviously, you know he's my guy. Very, very, very talented running back. Very good O-line. Very well coached. This is a very exciting guy to have in your team. And McCaffrey-Jacobs combo sneakily might be the best running back combo in the league as long as McCaffrey finds his footing in that San Francisco offense. Deebo Samuel does have a hamstring strain. That's what you're going to want to look for. Amon St. Brown did get a concussion. You're going to want to look for that. Actually, I think he didn't end up having a concussion, if that's the right player, but he was taken out for the concussion. So some bad luck, but hey, this team is doing what it takes to be a real competitor. I think Paco Libre will be able to make a run and be a real competitor in the playoffs as well. El Grenas, a team I was pretty high on preseason. Najee Harris's disappointing tour continues. Mike Williams gets injured, but DeAndre Hopkins, Nuke, steps up 14 targets, 103 yards. Without a touchdown, able to get you over 20 points. Massive, massive addition to this team. I think the exact addition that you needed. I do think that, and you get Deontay Foreman, by the way, on your bench, also a really good piece. Diggs coming back from bye, James Robinson now on the Jets. I think there's a lot to be excited about for El Grenas. I think this is a very strong 3-4 team. Yet another 3-4 team to talk about, but one of those really strong ones that I think can do a lot of damage. So this league's pretty exciting. I think you have a couple 3-4 teams that will be in the playoffs. So let's keep an eye out for that. And best of luck, everyone, in a very, very buy-heavy and exciting Week 8 coming up. I'll see you next week.